In the previous videos, we added a lot of features to our TurboRails clone, and so now is a good time to start thinking to write an integration test. And what we want to do in this video is to write an integration test for the create, update, and destroy method. And we want to check that when the format is HTML, we are redirected to the articles path, so the index page. And when the format is TurboStream, we render HTML with a specific template. So let's start working and create our integration test. So we're going to create it in the test controller folder, and we're going to name it StreamsControllerTest. And it will require the test helper like every test. And we can create our class, so TurboClone StreamsHelperTest, and it will inherit from action dispatch integration test, as it is an integration test. And so the first thing that we might want to test here is that it works as expected with the HTML format. So we're going to write three test case. The first one will be create with respond to. The second one will be update with respond to, and the third one will be destroy with respond to. So the first thing that we want to do is create a new article. So what we're going to do is going to post to the articles path with the params for a brand new article. So we're going to say params article content, and content is going to be something. We don't really care here what it is. And we're going to check that we are redirected to the articles path, so the index page. And let's just run the test here to make sure it works as expected. So that's perfect. Now we're going to write the same test for the update. So we're going to create a new article. And we are going to update it, so with a patch request, and we're going to say that the content should be something else, and we expect to be redirected to the articles path. So let's run our test again to make sure it works. And so it's not articles path, it's article path with the article we just created. So that's the danger of copy pasting, and it works. So now let's copy paste again actually, and write the test for the destroy method. So this time we create an article. The method is delete. We're going to delete a specific article, and we don't have to pass params because it's a delete method, and we expect to be redirected to the index page once again. So let's go ahead and launch our tests, and it still works as expected. So now we're ready to test the second case. So the second case is when the request here is made with the TurboStream format, like this. So what do we want to test? Well, the first thing we want to test is that the response status is okay and not redirect. So we expect a 200 status code here, so we can say assert response okay. So this is how we write it in Rails. Then we can check that the MIME type of the response is TurboStream. So we can say assert equal MIME TurboStream, and this is equal to the response media type, so MIME type here. We also can check that the TurboStream response has the expected HTML. So let's have a look at the create TurboStream view. And what we could check, for example, is that we're going to prepend to the articles target. So we expect a TurboStream selector. So let's write it. Selector is equal to TurboStream with an action of prepend. And what we are going to add to this selector is the target. So we can say selector selector, and we're going to add target is equal to articles in our case. So with that selector, we should be able to ensure that the selector is present in the view that is rendered. So we're going to say assert select selector, and we should count one selector like this in the rendered view. So let's test it again. And as we can see, it doesn't work. The expected response status was okay, but the actual response status is 302. So this is a redirect response. And the problem is that this as TurboStream here is not understood properly. So we're going to go to the engine here and add a new initializer that we're going to call Turbo Integration Test Request Encoding. And we're going to say that when the action dispatch integration test class loads, we are going to add some code here. And actually, this is the only piece of code that I'm going to copy paste in this whole tutorial because it's kind of a hack. This meaning that with the public API of Rails, we cannot add this functionality here for TurboStream. It wouldn't work. And we would have to read quite a lot of the source code of the Ruby on Rails framework in order to understand what's happening here. So it's a real rabbit hole. So we are going to say that this is the boundary of the tutorial, and I'm just going to copy paste this piece of code, and it will enable us to write this as TurboStream format here. So let's do it. I just copy pasted the code from the TurboRails official repository, and here we go. Now we can make our request with this as TurboStream format. So let's go ahead and check that it works as expected, and indeed it now works as expected. So we could do the same thing here and copy paste this kind of huge block of code here everywhere. But I think it's more interesting to create a test assertion that we will be able to reuse. So our goal here is to replace this big block of code by assert TurboStream, and we want to assert that the action is prepend in our case, and that the target is articles. So that's what we want to do. And to do this, we have to create this custom assertion somewhere. And we are going to create a new file here that we are going to name test assertion. So the source code of the TurboRails that has no real place in app should go within lib TurboClone. So here we are, and we're going to namespace it, of course, in the TurboClone namespace, and we're going to call this test assertions. And actually, I forgot the S here, because we can have many assertions. In our case, we'll have only one, but eventually we could have multiple of them. So we're going to extend active support concern here, and we are going to say that when this module is included somewhere, and actually it will be included in active support test case, when it is included, we're going to say that we want to delegate the DOM ID to action view record identifier. So this way we won't have to write action view record identifier .dom ID every time. We can just write DOM ID and it will be delegated to the right class. And we can create our assert TurboStream method that will take an action and an optional target, a status that by default will be equal to OK, and that's it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut this piece of code and make sure that we are going to write the same thing. So we're going to assert that the response has the correct status. So the status by default is OK, and so this will be exactly the same line. We're going to always check that the MIME type of the response is TurboStream, and we're going to build our selector dynamically. So the action will be action and the target will be target, and we are only going to add this part of the selector if we have a target, right? So this here is ready, and let's launch our test to have a look at how it works. And it doesn't work. I'm going to scroll up to have a look at the error, and the error is simply undefined method assert TurboStream. And this is because we didn't add this method here anywhere, right? It's for now it only lives in the source code, so in the lib_TurboClone folder, but we didn't require it, and we didn't include the module anywhere. So it's just a piece of code hanging out here. So as always, in order to glue a piece of code to other parts of the Rails framework, we're going to navigate to the engine. So we will require our TurboClone test assertions file in order to be able to use it. And we're going to write another initializer, and this one is a more classic initializer. So we're going to say turbo test assertions, and we are going to say that when active support loads, when active support test case, loads, then what we want to do is to include in it the TurboClone test assertions module. And this action dispatch integration test here inherits from active support test case, and so it will have the test assertions module included, and so this method now should be available to our StreamsControllerTest. So let's run the test once again, and indeed everything works as expected. So we can do exactly the same thing here. So what we're going to do is to patch to the articles path something different here, and we're going to specify the format as being TurboStream, and we are going to say that we can assert TurboStream, so our new test assertions, and in the case of our update method, the action should be replace, and the target should be our article. And this target here, we're going to have to say that if we respond to toKey, so that's always the same logic, right? If we respond to the toKey method, then we can take the DOM ID of the target, and otherwise we are going to leave the target unchanged. So this should work again. Let's run our test to make sure. And indeed it works as expected. And the last thing that we want to do is do exactly the same thing but for the destroy action. So we're going to specify the format and say that this is a TurboStream request, and we're not redirected to, we have this assert TurboStream here. This time, if we have a look at the destroy TurboStream view, the action should be removed, and the target is still the article. So it will be converted to a DOM ID once again. And if I run the test. We couldn't find article with ID 1. Oh yeah, this is because I already destroyed the article here. So actually I will have to create another one. So yeah, we can say that this is another article. And if we launch our tests, everything works as expected. So in this video, we learned how to create a custom test assertion and how to write an integration test for our engine.